Hello and welcome to SCC Simplify. My name's William Carver and I'm delighted to once again be hosting an episode of our podcast looking at all things in the IT industry. And I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Andrew Dawson and Rhiannon Hooper. Do you want to just quickly introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Will, and thanks for having me on today. So, Rhiannon Hooper, I'm a Lenovo Partner Account Manager looking after SCC and Focus.
And I'm Andrew Dawson. I am SCC's Dell Alliances Manager. I've worked with and for Dell for the last 15 years.
Right. So we're going to have, as you're probably picking up there, then a little bit of competition between the two. You've got Dell and Lenovo on the podcast. We're going to be talking a little bit this morning about supply chain and all things to do with what's going on in the market right now around device supply. Because I don't want to alarm anybody, but it is slightly chaotic out there at the moment. I guess lots of customers that might be listening to this and users listening to this will be wondering why on earth prices are going up the way that they are. So can I start there? What's causing this as a problem in your opinion?
I'll take this one.
Yeah, you go on.
Yeah, and I just want to caveat before we carry on that whilst I do work for Lenovo, and I have been at Lenovo for a very long time, sort of 10 years and counting, everything that I express here today is my own opinion.
Your own opinion and no one else's, just you. Yeah, this is not cleared by Lenovo's comms department.
Unfortunately not, but we're all okay. What we've been seeing is that it's the drive for AI ready infrastructure is the crux of it. And so with that, supply is outstripping demand, and all the silicons and memory SSD manufacturers are pushing more towards the AI compute side of things rather than your standard laptop RAM and SSD.
So I was going to say, are there specific things that are particularly in constraint right now? And have we seen any changes over the last couple of months? I guess you've got
I mean, in terms of the things that are in constraint, really you're looking at memory. So you're looking at DRAM 4, DRAM 5, the manufacturers where we're talking about Dell and Lenovo on our side, from our experience, actually the manufacturers behind Dell and Lenovo, so SK Hynix, Samsung, Micron, those companies are the ones that actually produce this material.
Sure.
Now they're pivoting towards supporting that supply of things like OpenAI platforming. And essentially what's happening is they're constricting, as a byproduct, constricting supply of memory for everybody else.
Yeah.
In the last 4 or 5 months, we're seeing price rises that are pretty crazy, as what happens is it's a classic supply and demand.
Yeah.
The supply reduces, therefore people who want to secure that supply pay more, and thusly you get the current runoff that we're having now.
And we're definitely seeing because obviously both Lenovo and Dell are not just device manufacturers, but clearly in the enterprise space too. Challenges across both, right? There's challenges in enterprise right now because of the scale. Is that fair to say? Because of more demand in the enterprise side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Memory, SSD, GPU is all eating and feeding into this demand, right? And silicons are putting more of their inventory towards these types of opportunities. So what we're seeing with that is for the basic opportunities is that we're struggling to get supply and demand for those niche opportunities. So what's happening now is that we're seeing extended lead times because obviously, as to your point, Andrew, the supply is going towards more of these hyperscaler opportunities, whereas XYZ Joe company from the street is not getting that supply and demand, so it's having to pay through the teeth for the limited supply that is there.
Sure.
I think it's important to note, actually, this is different from what was happening during COVID.
Yeah.
This is not the same thing. So I was working for Dell at the time, and I really benefited indirectly from the pandemic simply because of the demand that was created for things like laptops. Dell benefited from that because they had a distributed global supply chain where their manufacturing wasn't just, say, in East Asia, it was also in Poland, it was also in Cork, in Ireland as well. That doesn't help in this scenario in the same way because it's fundamentally below that supply stream that the problem is. So you're not going to see the same dynamics in terms of which vendors are doing better or worse the way that you did during COVID.
Yeah, it's definitely it has been interesting to watch. And I think, thinking about this from a buyer's point of view, whether they're buying servers and storage, or whether they're buying devices, or whether they're buying both, what do you think, what are they seeing? What's happening to them? What's the customer's perspective on this?
I think customers are really struggling to understand why everything's in the state that it is,
Sure.
being frank. I think and to your point again, Andrew, every vendor's in the same scenario, be it HP, Lenovo, or Dell. We're all seeing the same constraints and restrictions, right? And everyone's vying to get that supply. So for customers, it's often hard, and I say this, and particularly coming over from end user, it's definitely really, really hard, and has been hard to articulate. Even when COVID, when you're trying to articulate to the problem to the customer, they don't necessarily take you on face value.
Sure.
So it's really, really
is
hard.
Is this just a sales tactic? You know,
this
it's
is
going to be a
it.
question.
And so when you're saying to somebody, RAM prices have gone up 40, 60, 80%, which is what we've been seeing over the past 4 or 5 months, they find it really, really difficult to believe. I think the best thing that we've been trying to do, definitely from a Lenovo perspective, into the SCC sellers, so that can reiterate or articulate this message into customers, is just being upfront and honest. You know, this is what we're seeing, and this is why we're seeing it. It's the drive for AI and countries looking to upgrade their AI infrastructure ready for that future, right? What can we do to mitigate that? And who can we rely on to mitigate that? And one of the benefits, I guess, from a Lenovo point of view, is that we operate over 180 different markets.
Sure.
We own all of our factories, and we have multiple factories across the globe, I would say. So obviously predominantly in China, but we do have manufacturing facilities in Europe and Ulu, and we've recently broken ground in the Middle East. We have manufacturing in Mexico and North America. With that, and what does that mean for our customer, is that we have better, I guess, view of our supply chain. We have direct relationships with those silicon manufacturers. Now, whilst I appreciate it's a little bit difficult to kind of, appreciate that when your lead times are moving into the 4 or 5 month mark, but it is a benefit because we have better view and visibility in looking at how we can secure that stock, how long we can secure that
and balancing
stock
global supply, right?
And balancing that global
supply.
supply.
I guess in terms of longevity, because again, I think there'll be a lot of people that might look at this and go, well, it's a temporary problem. It's going to go away fairly quickly. I'll just wait. I mean,
back to the sales tactics thing, where you've got this kind of scenario of, do I believe what's happening? Can I really believe who's on the other side of the fence from me? And will it continue? You've got somebody who's, say, coming to the end of an investment cycle. They're looking at the next investment cycle, and they've not necessarily looked at the market or the conditions of the market. And then they come to a salesperson and they go, okay, I'm ready to have a look. And suddenly the salesperson goes, you've got to buy now. It's really expensive already, and it's going to get worse. And you've got this kind of double whammy effect of, do I believe what's going on? Is it a sales tactic and everything else?
So how long do you think this is going to last, really?
It's not a sales tactic. It is going to last. I think it's the point. And it's going to last, the studies that are coming out, you look at the manufacturing that's coming online, say, from the likes of Intel, the additional manufacturing that Samsung's investing in Korea. Those factories aren't coming online for significant
none of that's quick.
Amounts of, none of it's quick. So you're really looking at least 18 months out. And that's to catch up to the demand that's happening now.
Yeah, sure.
So actually there's a few different people now thinking in terms of, is it the end of this decade?
Wow.
Okay.
Right. That's truly terrifying.
Which is truly
okay. Well, so that's a really good point to pick up on, right? So you've got customers that are coming out of a refresh, looking at suddenly having to have an increased budget, a supply chain which is taking longer to supply, challenges around certainty of that supply. So I guess that leads immediately to, what are the kinds of things that customers should be thinking about trying to do?
Buying now, being quite frank. And to your point, I just want to go back a bit of a step, if that's all right, Will.
Sure.
That I'd argue, as you say, it's longer than that 18-month mark. We're seeing things up to 2 years, and if you only look at the things like OpenAI, where they're looking to have things up and running from a US standpoint at least, by 2028.
This is Project Stargate, right?
Yeah. So and obviously we have Project Stargate in the UK as well. I know there's a bit of a halt at the moment, but that's only going to elongate the process. But that's not looking to ramp up in the UK, I believe, until between 2028 and 2030. Yeah. So. These are £500 billion investments. It's going to take a long time to ramp up, as you say.
Yeah, when you measure the market, you still measure the market in billions, and you say 500 billion is an investment. Yeah. That's a significant share of that market.
Even I know that's a big number.
It is. But it's to the point that take Lenovo, for example. We're having to reconsider what it is we do in our portfolio and how we offer our portfolio to our customers to meet their demand that is, going to be between now and when these AI infrastructure pieces do ramp
Sure.
up. So we're having to change our server offerings, for example, to move away from large language models to support customers with inferencing now, rather than the LLM piece that we did before. So we're really having to adapt what we do to meet the market as we move forward.
And customers are having to adapt as well, right, in terms of what their buying pattern and what they're thinking about buying.
Just on that. So a great example is we sold to a customer about 2,500 devices in October. They came to us and an investment cycle looking at what's next. They had a notion that these devices might need to be AI ready devices.
Yeah.
They weren't really convinced about it. They didn't know what they were going to use it for. Now, they spoke to SCC, went through a process with them of understanding what they were actually thinking about doing. And we still didn't really get to define this is the AI outcome that we're going to produce from all of this. But what we were able to do through the process is negotiate the best price and the best package for them. Now, if you take that customer back in October who made that decision then and tell them to make the decision, take 6 months to work all that AI, I don't know what I want, out into something that's actually concrete as part of their business case, the truth is they'd probably spend somewhere in the region of 80% more.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So now, looking back, that customer...
That decision looks really smart.
Looks really clever.
And we've definitely seen a change in behaviour in some clients thinking about how they cope with things like risk, for example. And I just make this as a general observation rather than a particular question, but if you look at some of the large government departments that have traditionally come out over frameworks which would require a fixed price for, say, 3 years, that is all still doable. But what you're paying for is the risk in that. So the price that you get back is going to be potentially multiple times what you would have expected previously. And so that flexibility is really key, right? And then also flexibility in terms of the supply. And I know Lenovo's done a load of work to make sure that you get flexibility in the supply chain to be able to try and help people.
We have, and that's testament to account teams from both a Lenovo perspective and SCC perspective working together to get the best outcome for that customer. And the thing that we've kind of reiterated, and I've particularly reiterated to the workforce, is that when you're talking to your customers, and some of them may not be particularly AI ready or ready to buy those types of PC, but it's understanding that they have to have a degree of flexibility when
and also thinking long term, right? Because actually where you might have bought a device previously for 3 years, this might be now a 5-year investment. Therefore, the capability that you need within the device is worth.
It needs to be
up there, right?
Future proofed.
Yeah,
is the best way to do it. And what we have been doing and looking at, and the benefit of customers choosing to work with SCC, for example, is that we can look at that, look at the appropriate device that is right for their end users and right for longevity. What does that look like in terms of, are we placing forward orders for them to try and secure price and supply? Are we talking to customers about lease agreements? So obviously we can do that 2 ways, right? SCC has got the great arm of Rigby Capital where you can offer these leasing agreements, so we can try and secure a price and supply over a certain amount of time. Or we can do it from a true scale perspective where, again, we can secure that price and device over a certain amount of time. Now, with that as well, I would say that customers, again, need to be a little bit smart about how they're ordering. So, for example, not everyone operates on the same financial year as we do, right? I know from an SCC and Lenovo perspective, we do operate on a March to April, whereas some customers operate January to December or June to June. So customers at the moment may have budget that they have left over. Let's take June to June, for example, where they have a certain finite amount of budget now. They'll have this X amount budget in June. So they will actually have the tangible cash. But back to the point about securing a price, whilst they may have that, we can't guarantee what price they'll get upon order. So it's actually thinking about, okay, how can I be a bit more smart, get more bang for my buck?
And work with Dell, work with Lenovo, work with SCC, because we can place forward orders and stick it in the warehouse, and then you guys will extend that warranty if needed, right?
Oh, absolutely. We can do that as well. So customers, and we have done that. So why we've been really successful with SCC at the moment is that we've been proactive in, the last 6 months, I would say, in asking customers to forward order and place what they can so that we can secure supply. SCC's in the good position where you can stock hold, as you say.
Sure.
And then we can, from a Lenovo perspective, and I'm sure from a Dell and HP perspective as well, we can extend the warranties on those devices so that they've got the comfort of knowing that everything's there and ready to go when they want to kick off their projects.
Yeah, I mean, in Dell terms, you've got Apex, which helps secure supply for certainly for the enterprise side of things, the infrastructure side of things, where you secure a price and you pay as you
For
grow.
those that are perhaps not familiar, this is a forward agreement. Essentially, says that you'll have an on-demand amount of capacity in the enterprise environment. Same as TrueScale from Lenovo.
Yeah. So Apex, the way it works is you commit to a certain minimum contract value, very similar to say some of the hyperscale type contracts you might see, and then what happens is you have burst scalability that you go into. The advantage of that, say over the hyperscalers, is the deal you do and make at that time is based on all of the kit being on-prem at the time.
Sure.
Which means that the
You've
true
got it.
costs for the vendor are at that point in time. They are not later.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at the hyperscalers now and everything like that, the true cost of what they're doing, they might be amortizing into your contracts later in the process.
And it's a really good point. I mean, and just your opinion, do you think this price impact is going to start to hit the cloud providers?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't get me wrong. Hyperscalers have very good buying.
They've obviously got big buying.
Right? They've got big,
but they've
big
been using that
pockets.
for years to get at a price. So
yeah, exactly. And what you'll also find is that it will slowly ratchet because there'll be some bean counter somewhere that will be counting the beans and going, we're about to get hit with the price for the next set of kit we have to put into, say, X, Y, or Z data center. That bean counter, the way that would get balanced off is what's my customer base? Sorry, the way that I get balanced off is what's my customer base?
Sure.
Who am I working with right now, and how can I squeeze them? And you're already starting to see some of those mechanics working out in software.
So shift to cloud is not going to fix this, right?
No.
And similarly, then anybody that's operating SaaS software, which is most people these days, which is actually just sitting on the same cloud infrastructure, they're going to see those prices go up too over the next certainly 18 months, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so, because obviously cloud providers as well are going to have to reinvest in their own, I guess, memory and SSD offerings, aren't they? Because 9 times out of 10 they may be operating with HDDs rather than SSDs in order to keep up with the market, moving to AI-driven infrastructure and supporting their customers as best they can. Even they themselves are going to have to upgrade what they have. So where are they going to pass those costs on?
I mean, there's another way of looking at it. You look at, say, the investments that Oracle's made. And the well publicized workforce reductions that have been going on there.
Yeah.
That's just their way of making it pay.
Yep.
Right? And finding the budget to be able to get involved in this. Now, all companies are going to be making decisions like that into the future, not necessarily about workforce, but certainly in terms of where do I recover the costs of this stuff.
Yeah.
And we talked about OpenAI. Well, Amazon, AWS, Azure, they're all going to be competing against these kinds of projects coming out, which means they're all going to be subject to the same market forces we are. The difference is, and this is something I think we'll see, is that the big guys will still continue to have buying power and therefore still continue to be able to literally exist and outcompete smaller guys. I think what you'll probably find in, say, for example, PC manufacturing and potentially at the bespoke end of enterprise, is you'll start seeing manufacturers getting bought up by the larger guys.
It's probably a consolidation.
Yeah, it happened. It happened during COVID. It happened during the credit crunch. The big companies that have an ability to survive and need an ability to compete into the future buy the smaller guys that have the ability to compete but not the size to survive.
Yeah.
It's just how it works.
Yeah. So to take this back to sort of very practical steps, I think what we've highlighted there is there's definitely an encouragement, I think, from all of us to go and try and get that forecast in now around demand internally, consolidate that, and then come out and try and buy some kit to secure a price early rather than waiting because it's going to get later. But I suppose there's another piece of this which is all around the reuse and recycling of equipment and refurb of equipment, right? So particularly if we look at what Lenovo is doing globally to try and support sustainability initiatives, and the same with Dell, actually there is an upside in this because it's going to start to drive some people to look at that sustainability strategy as suddenly a really good cost avoidance strategy, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're SCC are in the throes of negotiations with Dell actually about becoming authorized with Dell for refurbishing Dell kit. The obvious benefit that I see for our customers is the fact we can give devices to market that are fully supported, fully warranted, and still capable of performing for certain use cases and certain persona types. You know, I think that's an immediate way of doing it. I would say, however, that the need, say, for example, for AI on a laptop, for example, that need will still demand an NPU sitting on a laptop now in the market.
So think about that spec.
Yeah, so the spec thing is going to come into that, and it's a law of diminishing return. You know, you'll be able to recycle and refurbish a certain amount for your lower work personas, who are not necessarily as heavy use cases. But if you're looking at that business transformation type thing that you're trying to achieve into the future, say for example, this customer that didn't know what they were going to do but knew they were going to do it.
Sure.
Refurb isn't necessarily going to be the answer there. So there's still a conversation.
But it
about
might
how
be in
secure.
a year, 2 years time, because you're buying a high-end laptop now that you can then reuse internally, right?
I mean, it's like EV. It's like EV cars. Suddenly, EV cars are starting to become cheaper on the second-hand market because they've been 5 years, 6 years in the market, or more sustainable.
It's approved technology.
And it's approved, which means now they're coming into the second-hand market and becoming cheaper. It'll be the same thing with refurb. You'll start seeing NPU-based, PCs with NPUs will start filtering into refurbishment centres like ours and being on offer. But
again, this isn't quick, right?
Away.
This is
It's not, but again, it's then having that conversation with the customer at this point in time and understanding, okay, you're going to have to change from what and how you were buying before. Is it, if you know, outside of what's going on in the market right now, everybody's got their own ESG and CSR bits that they need to meet, right? I think a lot of companies want to be at a certain point by 2030, and you've got to think, what are the different things I can do to ensure that my business is meeting those ESG and CSR goals, and how can I do it that in a cost-effective manner? So as you to that point, is refurb or recycling kit, or looking at something like a true scale agreement where they can get those types of devices, be it if they want to think about longevity and making sure that these devices are future-proof, so having devices that contain an NPU, knowing that when they come back to refurb them or put them back in 3 years or 5 years down the line, that they will get a good amount back, basically, because the demand is going to be there for second-hand NPU devices, and then they can upgrade to the latest and greatest, because obviously they've saved money in doing that process. So.
Look, I'm conscious of time, folks. So let me just.
Can I cover one off?
Yeah. Well, go on. Shoot.
So going back to the warehousing. So obviously SCC have a warehousing capability of our own in Tyseley and Birmingham. The advantage of that, which we've actually seen really recently for another Dell customer, was that we were able to take kit into our warehouse and keep it free of charge for that customer, based on the fact we were doing a larger elaborate deal. The customer's not intending to take that kit until January. Now, if you're talking to other suppliers, other managed service providers or resellers like ourselves, really look at what is that ability with them. Is it first party or third party? We could take a look commercially at that offering for that customer, because we were able to take the deal in the
whole view,
and the whole view, and therefore we can make that kind of decision to go, do you know what, the warehouse is ours, it's paid for, it's already existing, we'll hive off a corner and you can keep that kit in that corner, that's fine. If people are using third party organizations behind them, where they don't necessarily own that warehouse space themselves, they can't make those kinds of decisions, which means they're going to incur cost.
And it's fair to say that if you look across distribution, everybody's going to be trying to do this, right? So it's okay to lean on Disty to do some of this, but we have got a big, Adam Neal, who runs our national distribution centre, will get cross about me calling it a shed, but it is a giant shed. It's a very clever shed, but it is, and it's huge, and it can put 700,000 devices in it if we need to. So
and shed space is expensive in the UK.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay, so look, so final thoughts then. If you were sitting here right now and you were faced with this as a challenge, what's the one thing you would do right now as a customer? What's the first thing you would do?
I'll go first.
Go on, Rhiannon.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that echoes from our director of global supply chain. And whatever he says to us on a global supply call is plan, plan, plan.
Yep.
Be flexible. Don't wait until 6 months down the line when you think, things are going to change and I'll be in a better position to place your order. Unfortunately, it's just not going to be that way. So plan as best you can. Ensure that you keep close with your SCC, Lenovo, whoever it is, counterparts to understand what is going on at that particular moment ahead of ordering, and just be flexible.
Okay.
Plan and place your orders.
Okay.
I think on top
That's
of that,
three things, but yes, fine.
It's all encompassing. Do you know what I mean?
Go on, then.
You just need to.
Sure. Yeah.
I think on top of that, to help with that planning, flatten the decision-making process, and simplify the decision criteria.
Yeah, sure. It's
You
really
know,
that's
really
good advice.
focus on those top 2 or 3 things that are going to make the difference for what you're doing next. And as soon as you see those, make the decision and make the decision quickly. We see far too many customers. I mean, for Lenovo, for Dell, for every OEM, the quote validities that they have now are in days.
Yes, typically 7 to 14 days.
7
It's
to
not-
14 days. Now, if you're waiting, say, for a board meeting to sign off a certain thing, and that's in 3 weeks' time because they only meet once a month,
It's not quick enough.
it's not quick enough.
Sure.
And that could increase your cost by 20% on that single product.
So either delegate that responsibility down, or go and demand that you get that responsibility down, so you can make a decision faster. And I think that's really smart advice. We've got a live tender at the moment in which the customer's proposing to take 6 months to get all the different parts of this organisation to decide and wants the price held. So we can do that. It's not a problem. But you're going to wind up paying probably 50% more right now because we have to build risk into it.
And every supplier that's responding will be doing the same.
Yep.
They're building coverage for the risk.
Yeah. So I would be remiss if I didn't also point out that SCC's got free half-day workshop where we can come and get engaged with customers and talk to them about how we can mitigate and build strategies out. Just getting that plug in there. It is an SCC podcast after all. But yeah, thank you both very much for the conversation. Really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.